Oh, looks like we might be live. There we are. All right. I just have to close the view there, otherwise we will have feedback. Okay. I believe that we are live. If there's anyone here watching, hi Wendy. I can see that you're there now. If anyone else is here, she says hi Ethan, or she said Ethan.
Hello.
So Ethan's here with me. Sorry for the delay. We were trying to sort out a technical difficulty that we had going on our end with the view here. We wanted to try to be able to have it so that you guys could see us both with our camera view side by side. And we had never done this before. So other times it had just worked out, but it wasn't working out the way we had it set up. So we had to get our way around that. So that was our little bit of a delay there. But thank you guys for waiting and tuning in with us. Ethan and I both have a project to share with you. So this view here is me. I will show you guys this card here. And then Ethan is the other camera. Just somebody comment, actually, make sure that you guys are seeing the same view that we are. And let me know that you can see both of our views side by side, if you don't mind. And then we will switch the view at times for you guys so that you're only here for Ethan. That's no surprise. Although Wendy, maybe we should have Lennon in here commenting or commentating, if that's the word, so that you have him playing, or not playing, but him joining us as well. I think we said we should do that sometime. All right, so we will show you guys. I'm going to switch the spotlight over to my project. Actually, you know what? We'll spotlight Ethan first. So he is going to take over and show you guys his card. Now he's nervous. And then I'll show you my card and we'll show you guys the how-to of the fold. And then we'll take turns showing our technique for you guys. So we'll just give Ethan the spotlight here and hopefully you can hear him well. We are trying to use one device. Wendy wants Lennon for comic relief. We might need it tonight. All right, so the floor is Ethan's. He's gonna try to talk so that you guys can see his project and hear him from my device over here. You're up, Ethan.
All right, so the card that I made, I used the design from a card that I made at Christmas time. And I used the Brewed For You stamp set and dies. So I use this stamp set and I use that to make.
Now, 1 second. Can you guys hear Ethan? We just want to make sure. Let me know if you guys are able to hear him. You guessed that he's old enough to make that card. Too funny. Okay, so if you can show them in that view, but try to talk this direction.
Let's start over.
He said he's going to start over. Tammy can hear you. It's he's got to kind of crank his head one way and show his hands the other way.
All right, so I used the Brewed For You stamp set to make my card. So I used the design from a card I made at Christmas, but I kind of altered it a bit with the colors and stuff to make it look like it was a bunch of cups of Coke, like Coca-Cola. So I wanted to try and use the stamp set to make it look like that. And I based it off of a card that my mom made last week.
It's just under there.
I just put it to the side here. So she made this card last week. So I was kind of doing a play on this card, but just switching it up a little bit. So I used the same technique that she did, which I'll show you guys how to do, where I stamped the cups first in the photo, or I guess you can see in the view here. And then after that, I stamped the like the filler for the cup with the Coca-Cola, and then I used the Versamark, and then I embossed that with the clear embossing powder and then the heat gun to give it this kind of if you can see that, yeah, kind of glossy look there, so it looks more like an actual drink. So that's the technique that I used on that card. So I'll show you guys how to do that in a little bit once we get started with the card.
All right, so now I'll just switch the view over here and I'll show you guys my project. Thank you for bearing with us here, Rum and Coke, yes, while we take turns. So this is the card that I'm going to show you guys. I used the layout that Ethan did on the card that he did at Christmas time. That was the sketch, I guess, that we were going with. So I ran with his idea and kept the stamping fairly simple. So in order to make this stamp work with it, I added in, well, it would have worked either way, but I just added this extra element in here with an interlocking gatefold. So we've got Ethan's gatefold layout, and then this one just interlocks with that new frame that I showed you guys the other day. And if you didn't want to do the interlocking, you could always just put another layer behind the frame and the insert and make it a solid layer so that it wasn't interlocking. I might have to do that a separate time, but this one tonight will be interlocking. So that's my card here. I've got all of my elements ready. Ethan has his elements ready as well. So we're going to switch the view back over to Ethan, and he is going to show you, actually, we're going to keep it on both of us for a second here. So we'll score the card base. He's actually pre-scored his. I saved mine so that we would have one to show you. So I'll actually just show you with mine. He's got his ready to go. And then, oh, I think we lost the view for a second. One moment. Okay, so I'm going to switch you back to Ethan for a second while we actually, no, I've got to keep it here because otherwise I can't. It shows on my computer, but it's not showing on the feed. So just bear with us for a second. Why would that happen?
Did you switch?
There's a little, okay, 1 second. We're going to just open. That shouldn't be why, but we'll see if this helps fix it. We'll give it a second and just see if this brings the feed back. All right, no, that's not working. So we will switch over to Ethan, I think, and we'll see. Show non-video participant.
No, yeah, do that.
It is this feed here. That's, sorry guys. What I'll do, I will switch back over to Ethan here, and he will show you guys how to do his stamping. And then I'll show you guys the scoring afterwards. So you should get Ethan back momentarily. There we go. Ethan's back. So we will just try to make sure that he talks in the direction of the mic, and he'll show you how to do his stamping here while we try to sort out this tech difficulty, just to make sure you remember to talk in this direction.
Yeah. There. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys how to do the stamping for my card. So to start, I use the just like the normal cup outline stamp from the Brewed for You stamp set, and I use the Memento ink to stamp the cups. So I'll start by doing that. I'll just show you. I'll stamp 3 of them, but I'll show you guys how to do the die cutting and the like the Versamark and the embossing just for one of them, and then I'll switch back over to my mom while I finish the rest of those. So I'll just stamp this one up with Memento. We got the 3 cups, and then next I'll stamp the like the Coke that goes inside the cup with the, I'm going to use early espresso to stamp that. So I'll get that out. Here. This one is a little bit trickier to line up on the inside, so it just takes a bit of a second just to try to kind of line it up so that it fits inside the cup properly.
Now his trick is to stamp for you guys without getting his head in the view. He's doing a good job.
Next one.
So for anybody who is just jumping in here, this is my son Ethan stamping for you. We are doing a dual stamping session. So he's making his version of the gatefold card, and then I'll make another one. We'll be switching back and forth while we make these projects for you guys.
So now that I've got the like each of the drinks stamped there, I'm just gonna cut out one of them, and that way I can show you guys how to do the die cutting and the like the embossing, I guess, for each cup. So I'll show you guys how to do that for one of the three.
And then while he works on the next two, I'll work on showing you guys the other project.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll move this out of the way now. Then I'll get the mini stamp cut and emboss machine out, and then take into place. Usually I'm the one hiding stuff. Now my brother and my dad are hiding stuff on me. There's a little opening there.
Nope.
Just bear with us for one moment.
Do you want to use the big machine? There.
Oh.
And the other one.
Two of the three pieces here now.
Here it is in my hand.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
All right, sorry for the delay there. So now I've got this is the die from the, where's the name of those? From the Brood dies. So these are the coordinating dies for the Brood for You stamp set. So there's also one other die that goes with the cup. So you can see here, there's this little die that's like it cuts out like the insert for the cup. So like whatever the drink is you're putting in the cup, you can either snap it like I did for this card, or you can also use this die to cut out the drink. And this way it kind of does those little like bubbles impression onto that. So that'd be another technique to try for another day, I guess. So now I'm just gonna line up the one drink that I did cut out. With the die here, I just have some washi tape to help hold that down. So I'll just line that up so that it fits the entire cup in there. And once that's lined up, I'll just stick that down. Then I'm just gonna put this in here and then roll it through. Sometimes it's a bit finicky here, so. And then now, as you can see, the die cuts out the drink, so you can have the whole cup there. So I'll do this for each of the three, but I'll show you guys how to do the process for one of the three. Just move that out of the way.
Scrap sheet.
Yeah, and I just got a scrap sheet here to put underneath the cup while I use the Versa mark.
You can actually. I think before you did it face down.
Oh yeah. So then, just before when I was doing this, I just took the die cut drink here, and I just set it down on the Versa mark. And once I had it set down, I just kind of run my finger along the back of that just to make sure that the whole thing gets the Versa mark on that. And then once I've done that, I can just take that off. Just get that out of the way.
I'm the one who threw him off, offering him the scrap sheet. He had his system down.
I thought I did need it actually. But and once I've got that all
Mind my own business.
Once I've got that all inked up, then I'm just going to use the clear embossing powder and just make sure that I get that fully coated, run that along there, and then just flick off the back a little bit. Let's move this out of the way. So I'm going to bring the heat gun in here. So you can see that's covered in the clear embossing powder. And now I'm just going to use the heat gun to heat that up.
So while Ethan's heating that up to show you guys, I will try to catch up with some comments here. We may even have to trade spots back and forth. I might have to jump into his view to show you guys how to do the other project. We're not sure that we're able to get the view back up on the other end. But Tammy, I like your comment. The family that stamps together stays together. That's awesome. And Janet, the stamp set that Ethan is using is from the new catalog. It is on the pre-order list for demos. It's called Brewed for You. It's a fun one. I like that you can make it more adult themed cards, or you can go with like a pop look as well. All right, so I'll let Ethan take back over and show you guys the finished technique.
So now that I've done the heat embossing on this one, you can see, I'll just bring that up a little bit closer. Not sure if it'll focus. You can kind of see there's like the
Bring it up a little higher. It might. There you go.
you can kind of see that glimmer on there from the clear embossing powder now that that's been heated up. So I found that just kind of gave it like more of a realistic look after seeing the card that my mom made last week, just because I found when it was just the ink by itself, it didn't seem to pop as much. But once you use that clear embossing powder and do the heat embossing technique, it really seems to make it look a lot more real. So now that I finished this one, I'm going to move on to doing the next three. And while I do that, I will let my mom pop back over and she'll show you guys the beginning of her card.
Okay, so if it does not work to switch the view back over, I will hop over where Ethan is, and we will just kind of trade spots back and forth. So we're going to see if this will work. It looks like maybe it's not, which is interesting. It shows up on my end, and on your guys' end, it is not. So, oh,
There we go.
it's showing double view. It's just not showing. Here, we're going to see if the spotlight of my work surface will work. Tell me if the view at the panda shows up for you guys. There we go. It is working. Okay. Thankfully, we don't have to play, what is that game called? Musical chairs, though I do have a dog sitting right at my feet. So I'm going to show you guys how to do the basic fold for this, and then I'll show you the stamping technique while Ethan works out the rest of his rum and Coke or Coke, whatever you want to go with. Okay, so I have my Simply Scored. This is a card base that is 4 1/4 by 11. And because we're going with the gatefold, we need to make 2 score lines. So we're going to flip the one end up into the corner here and score at 2 3/4. And then you want to flip it around and score at 2 3/4 again. So that gives us our card base. I'll show you guys, you probably get the idea, but just to show you the full steps here. Then you just take each of those and burnish them. And they should meet at the middle here to give you that gatefold. So we're giving you 2 versions of the gatefold tonight. The interlocking, which is this one, and then Ethan's, which is the standard gatefold. Yes, so this stamp set, I can't show you the catalog yet, but I can show you the stamp set. So I'm using Wild and Sweet from the new catalog that's coming up in May. And I grabbed a greeting from Through It Together. I think this one might be retiring. I can't remember. I haven't marked my stamps yet. That's a job for this weekend, but I just pulled in the Believe in Yourself from that one, but you could use any greeting because this one doesn't have greetings with it. It's kind of open to interpretation, but I wanted just a simple greeting for that one. So I've used that. All right, so I'll put those aside and I'll show you guys now the technique for mine and another new upcoming product that I chose to use. There is a nice stamp that goes really well with this one, but it's not on the pre-order list, so I couldn't get that one. So I chose to use the, might not make perfect sense, but the Fern embossing folder that is coming up in the new catalog as well. And that is this one here. So that'll be a nice versatile one to add to your collection. Okay, I don't need to show you guys how I did that, but you can see the imprint there and how nice and textured that is. All right, so we'll just put this back down. And then I can show you guys the stamping for that one. So I have used the frame from the, kept the dies nearby here. I showed you guys this one yesterday, the Fabulous Frames dies. I used the large frame from that. It comes with all of these ones here. And with this one, I have some extras that I should have kept handy, but what it does is it cuts the frame and the insert separately. So this is the frame, it's got that texture on it, and then it cuts a solid insert. So I cut them in both black and in white. So the black will become just my frame, and then I wanted the insert in white so that I could do the stamping on it. So that's how I did that. Similar to yesterday, I used the frame and the insert in multiple different colors for that lime card. It would be amazing for shaker cards, Tammy. This is going to be a really versatile set. I've already used this frame multiple times. I showed you guys yesterday the one that I used where I cased the bird cards of Erica Serwin's. And that's what I used on that one. And, you know, since then the cat has chewed all the ribbon off those cards. She's in trouble today. All right. Okay, so I've set up the panda stamp on my Stamparatus. I am going to, I should have marked where this was going, but I can kind of eyeball it just to make sure afterwards. Before I stamp, I just want to take note that is not the right placement. Need to move over a whole section. And don't mind Ethan's embossing over here in the background. I love what he came up with. And that he likes to stamp. Okay, got to move over just a little bit more. There we go. This should be good. Okay. So I'm going to ink this up with Memento ink. You could use StazOn as well. I've just used Memento for mine. And this way, if I goof up at all, I can just ink my stamp up again and then stamp again in the same place. Can you guys believe I don't have any, sorry for the camera shake that's going on here. And I have one of these handy pressure tools, so I'll just use that just to make sure that I have a nice impression. And it's a little dull, so I will go over that again. I probably need to re-ink this, though. I thought I just did. If you don't have a Stamparatus, that is a good item to add to your wish list. If you do have a Stamparatus and you don't yet have the carrying bag, it's actually on the clearance rack for $16. I think it's $16. There we go. I think I'm going to do a little bit over his body one more time. There we go. There. So now that part's all set. And we can just put the Stamparatus away. So what I did with this, I'll bring this a little closer so you guys can see. I have added some pool party behind here. I actually took inspiration from the image in the catalog and ran with that. So what I did was I created a mask for myself. So I just used a large sticky note. And I stamped on that. I stamped so that the part where the adhesive of the sticky note is along the top. If you were to just stamp, I'll show you the size of sticky note that I use. I keep pads of these really large ones handy. So it's a really big one here. I'll show you this in relation to the size of the card. So you can see there, it's a little bit bigger than your card front size. So when I stamped the bear, I made sure to stamp right up near the top so that I would maintain some of the adhesive on my mask so that it will help stick down to my white cardstock. So just keep that in mind if you ever need to do masking, is that you've got to make sure that the part that you're going to be working with is still sticky or still has that adhesive section on it. So I want to match this up to my image as best as I can. I want it to be as tight to it as possible. There we go. So that is layered over top. You can put your stamp case under your stamp for sturdiness. I am curious what you mean by that. Yes, thank you for asking, Tammy. So I stamped it on the sticky note and then I fussy cut it right up close to the image, like right along the stamp line, so that you get a really tight mask. And then I'll let Ethan scroll through the comments here, just in case I've missed something. I've had my head down in my project here. So that's what I did there is I stamped on the sticky note and then you cut right close to the image and then you can use it as a mask. All right, so then what I did next was I took my Pool Party ink and my blending brush. So with this one, because there's so much detail and the stickiness is only along the top, I had to be really careful how I blended over the background. We stamp case under the, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so I'm going to just explain to you guys in the comments what Michelle meant, or what I think she meant here. So if I had taken, say, even my stamp pad or the stamp case here, I think this is what she means, is to place that underneath there, and then you have a more solid surface to ink up your stamp. Michelle, let me know if that's what you meant. That's an excellent tip, and I always forget to do that, but that would have made inking up my stamp a little bit easier before I flipped it over. All right, so I'll move this aside, but just comment there to let me know if that's what you meant, Michelle. Okay. So now I've got my Pool Party, and I was just saying that I have to be really careful with how I ink this up, but or with how I blend it out, but hopefully we will have some other exciting things that might make this a little bit easier in the future. All right. Thanks, Michelle. That's a really smart tip. I just need to remember to do that. So I'm just inking up my brush. Try to bring that a little closer. And I just dab off the first little bit first. And then I'm just starting with my blending brush on the sticky note and working my way outwards. And I'm doing that over each section in the direction that the sticky note goes, so that I don't accidentally tear it or move it off of the image. I'm so glad that you learned tips while you're here, Terry. I'm just giggling at Tammy's comment there. I might know something. All right. I always hope that you guys will learn something while you're here. Okay, so it'll be really hard to see the ink transferring to the white paper while I'm doing this, but it is there. And when I take off the mask, then you'll really see it. And then I have a little tip as well for the little areas that are not going to get blue ink, like right in between here. I did not bother to get right into those little grooves and fussy cut them. And you'll see here, they don't stand out a ton here. And I'll show you guys how I remedied that. Ethan's gonna get way ahead of me over here. That's okay. Normally I would probably blend with more of a circular motion, but I just have to be cautious with all of this little detail in these leaves that if I was to go in a circular motion like that right on the paper, it would lift them up, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just kind of going with the direction of the image. What did you need? The black markers. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I just have to pass him a black marker here. There you go. You saw them flash by the screen there. And once I pull this away, you guys will see there, I just went over his little paw. All right, so I'll lift this off in just a second, and hopefully I will have revealed enough Pool Party. Yeah, the live is great, Terry. I agree with you. Okay, so you can see there now that I've pulled that off. Hopefully you guys can get it's kind of hard to pick that up. I might even do just a little bit more. So the nice thing about a mask is I can just place that right back down and go back over it again if it's not as bold as what I want. I'm happy with it how it is, but I want to just give a little bit more so that you guys can see a little bit more of the effect. And with this matte being glossy here, I can still pick up that ink from there and use it. It doesn't go to waste. All right, that should be good. Just pick that ink up off of there. And so now I can peel this off. And then I think there you can see it a little bit better in the view. It shows up with more impact in real life. And you can see in between here, it does show up as white as opposed to the blue that's around here. So I will show you guys how to fix that up in just a little bit. So I'm all done with the pool party. And then what I use to color it, I'm going to actually save this. If you guys go to the trouble of creating yourself a mask, make sure you save it. So what I like to do is I don't put the stickers on my stamps. So maybe I will start doing that, but I'm going to show you where I would save this. I would just take this and tuck it in here. You could stick it right inside your case, but I like to put it in between there. Then that way you don't see it from the front, but it stays protected in between these two layers. I have found sometimes when I stick it on the inside, as the rubber layer slides around in here, it bends it or tears part of it off. So I like to stick it in between those two layers. You could probably flip that over. Just giving Ethan some advice here. There was one little part of his card that he was still working on. Okay, so now to color this in, I actually went to the watercolor pencils. So I've got this collection here. We have two different collections. This is the one that has 13 pencil crayons in it. And I am using just the Old Olive and the Early Espresso. So I've got those two pencil crayons or watercolor pencils. If you buy the Panda stamp set, is a mask included? Would that not be amazing if there was? So Tammy, just to answer your question about when you find if you put the stickers on, Stampin' Up, I think it was maybe last year or the year before, they switched the stickers, so they are now actually very sticky. I almost find them too sticky, so we went from the ones that didn't stick at all to ones that stick really well now. So I still don't put them on, but some people do. And I know on another live, I told you guys that you could use the backing of your stamp as a mask. And that works really great if you just want to do a little bit of a spatter behind and you don't want it to go on your image. But because we needed to mask it right tight to the image, that's why I did a separate one today with the sticky note. All right, so now I will color. So I'll start coloring and then perhaps we'll let Ethan go on with another step to show you guys so that you don't have to watch me color the whole image unless you guys would like to. But it's really basic with the watercolor pencils. So I just went right along these darker sections where there's a little bit of detail here. So right along all of these portions here. Oh, sorry, it went a little bit too far with the extra detail. So I colored all of those in first, a little heavier. And then I just lightly filled in with the pencil crayon everywhere else. So that's the nice thing about the watercolor pencils is you do not have to be very perfect in how you apply these. They're pretty forgiving. I did use Memento. Typically, you would probably use Stays-On instead of Memento, but it was just what was handy, and I wasn't really heavy with my blending with the blender pen that I will do after. So I wasn't too worried about it. Okay. So I'm just, again, going over all of the detailed areas, a little heavier. Now, before I fill them in, I will fill in these other areas, but before I do that, there's a little bit of these leaves that overlap into the tree area. So I want to get all of those colored in first, just so that I don't go too far over with the early espresso. So I am just, again, going over the detailed areas of the leaves, just the same as I did with the early espresso, with the old olive on the leaves. There is another collection of watercolor, they're the watercolor pencils. So if you don't have these exact colors, you might have the other collection. I actually have those handy too, just so you guys can see the difference. This is the other collection, and this one's got different colors in it than the collection that I have used, but there are two. So just if you're wondering if you only have the one collection and you don't have these colors, that might be why. I love that they're a good price point too. That looks good. Ethan's trying out some masking of the greeting. He'll have to show you guys that when we switch the view back over to him there. So I have just applied a little bit of old olive over all of those leaves now. And I missed this one here. Okay, so now I will just quickly shade in over, just very lightly, over the rest of the tree. And you guys might have a different coloring method for this, or you might have a different technique as to where you apply your color. I think that's totally okay. If it can be done as exactly like this, or you can do it a little bit differently. And coloring is definitely open to each person's preferred method or whatever works for them. You could also not fully color this in so that you get a little bit more highlighting. I will blend over this yet. That's not complete, but that's totally up to each person's preference, I think. I do want to show you guys how I filled in these little white areas. So I have my blender pen. These come in a set of 3 in the annual catalog. And I just have a piece of scrap paper here. And I'll show you guys how I filled those in to save myself from having to cut that mask so that it had all of these little spaces showing so that the ink would blend over there. Instead, what I did was I just took, you want to make sure you don't have any color. You can see there's a little bit of brown in here still. So you want to make sure that you don't have any color in there. And then I'm just picking up a little bit of ink right off my ink pad. And then I'm just swiping on here first, just to take out the depth of the color. And then I could fill that in. So you can see here now, I filled in that little area and now it's not so stark white. So this I found to be a lot easier than trying to snip into there with my mask. And also by doing this way, if you were to try to snip in between all those little areas with your mask that you create, it won't stay down very well. So I found this a little bit easier. I don't want to go into where I've blended, so I'm staying pretty tight to those little areas that just need a little bit of filler. So just right in here is the only area that I'm doing this, just so that it's not so bold white. And then I have a little bit over on this one here to do. And then we're good. So now I have filled in all of those little areas and you don't see that bold white in there anymore. I hope that helps. It helps that it is a really light color. If that was a really dark color that I blended over there, it might be a little bit harder to achieve that effect, but I found that just taking the color straight from my ink pad and then filling in those little gaps was a lot easier to do than fussing with my mask. So then I just save this and I can use that again later. You could just use a scrap sheet. I just had that one handy. All right, and then I still need my blender pen. And now I want to blend over these other areas. So I'm just going over this now with my blender pen just to blend out that tree. So now it's not so streaky. I love how easy the watercolor pencils are to use, how user-friendly they are. If you don't find that you are super confident with blends or watercoloring, and you don't need to do a lot of blending, the watercolor pencils are a very user-friendly coloring method, I find anyway, especially over an image like this, where the image does a lot of the work for you. You could also stamp this image and just leave it in black and white. You don't even need to color it in. I just wanted to be able to add a little pop of color and tie it into my cardstock elements. So there you go. That was super easy and quick. Now, what I want to do before I color, I need to bring this one back in actually. Before I blend over my leaves, you just need to take your blender pen and make sure that you get rid of the color. So now that it's coloring clear, I can go ahead and blend over the leaves. It looks like there's color still in there, but it's not coming off of my project. So don't feel like you've got to make the tip of your blender pen look clear. As long as it's running clear on your piece of paper, then you're good. So now I'm just going over all of these little leaves to blend out the green, the old olive that I put on there, just so that it fills them in a little bit more, because I didn't fully color in the leaf or the leaves. And I'll bring this a little closer in just a second so that you guys can see how the leaves are blended in as well. I know if Wendy was coloring this one, she'd do an amazing job with alcohol markers. There we go. And I feel like, I don't know if David's here, but I feel like this stamp set screams David to me. I feel like he needs to create something with this. So I'll bring this a little closer. And now you can see that the leaves are colored in as well. Not with a lot of detail, just a little bit of green over each of them. So there we go. That is how I did the focal layer of my project. Ethan has finished up the technique that he's done with the, oh my goodness, the Coke cups. So I think what we'll do is I will switch the view back over to Ethan and I will let him show you guys some of the assembly of his project. And then I'll give you guys a quick rundown of how I did this before I do that. And then I'll just stamp my greeting while he is showing you guys his project, if that sounds okay. So what I did for my greeting is I have a little scrap of black and I am going to wipe this down with my embossing buddy. So I would just take this, wipe that down. I will stamp my greeting with Versamark. I will coat it with white embossing powder and I will heat set it. So if that is enough of a description of how I'll do my little greeting, then I'll let Ethan take the view back again. I can spotlight you over there. Actually, you know what? He's asking if he can sit here, and then that way it's a little bit easier for him to be able to speak to you guys so you can hear him through the mic. So I'm going to move my projects here, and he's actually going to jump right in here. So we're just going to play the musical chairs. I'm just going to grab my greeting out of your way first. Okay, so and I'll try to keep up with comments while he is showing you guys his project.
All right, so while you guys were gone, I continued on with the technique, or I guess while I was gone, I continued on with the technique for each of these coat cups. So I did the other two here. So now I've got all three of these, you guys can see. So they all have that embossing on them where you can see the glimmer on them there. So now all three of those look like that. So now I've got my supplies here for actually assembling the rest of the card. So one thing I just added to the inside was this stamp here from the Brood for You stamp set. It actually says, I owe you one. I'll show you guys the stamp set. My mom just grabbed it here. So I use this stamp here. So it's I owe you one or several. So on the front, I had the I owe you one. And then on the inside, I stamped the or several right there. So I did that while my mom was doing the coloring there. So I'll just show you guys here how to assemble this card here. So just to start here.
Show them how to do the greeting.
Oh yeah, I guess I have the greeting here. I was going to show you guys. I completely forgot about that. So let's move those aside. So I've got my scrap piece here to stamp the greeting on. So what I did for this greeting here is I stamped the whole thing and then I just cut off the or several that goes below that. So I'll show you guys how to do that here. So just ink this up. Now that's inked up, I'll just stamp that. There you go. Let's move this out of the way. All right, so now that I've got the greeting there, I'm just going to use the scissors here just to cut in between the I owe you one and the or several. So I'll just cut right in between there.
While Ethan's cutting there, I'll just catch up with some comments. Terry, I agree. The panda does have such a sweet expression on his face. I think it's very cute. I'll just try to catch up.
All right, so let's trim that a bit, straighten it out. All right, so now that I've got the greeting there, what I did on the other one, there is a few little like dots you can see from the greeting, like from the rest of the greeting. So I just distressed the edges of this to try and help cover that up and to give it a little bit more, not sure what the right word is. Where would that be?
Texture, detail, I don't know.
Yeah. Like I guess you could say to zhuzh it up a bit.
So Linda will probably recognize, I know she follows another demonstrator here in Canada who uses the term zhuzh it up. The boys met her when we went to Greece, and whenever they hear that word, they think of her.
All right, so now that I've distressed the edges of that, I'll just set that aside here with the cups, and then I'll show you guys how to put the different layers for this card together. So I guess my mom mentioned before, I already have the base here, so I scored that, and then I already have this folded in. So just one thing I guess to note when you're doing this is you want to make sure that as you're burnishing the edges here, you want to make sure that the two panels line up in the middle so that they're not overlapping each other. That way it easily opens and closes without each side getting caught on each other. So once you've done that, I use the Real Red 6x6 DSP. So I use the plaid pattern on the back side. There's this pattern as well. So I chose to use the plaid pattern for this. So I just used the Tombow glue to attach these to the panel. So I'll just do that really quickly and then I'll move on to the next step of that.
I feel like he's very descriptive in his instructions for you guys. I might be biased, but I feel like he's doing a good job.
So I've got that. I'm just going to line this up here. So I'll line the first one up, and then once I have the first panel on, then it'll be easier to line the second one up, because then you can line the second one up so that the line goes all the way across the top there. Definitely get a lot less glue on my fingers now than when I was younger and I was doing this. So now that I have this one, I can line the second one up so that it lines up all the way across. So let's position that in there.
Speaking of getting a lot less glue on his fingers than when he was younger, that reminds me of the first time that I had ever used Tombow glue was when I was running a kids class. And for those of you who know Susie helped me do that first kids class. And I bought enough bottles that they could each use one. And I learned to never do that again. The Tombow glue is not the best thing to give a bunch of younger kids to use.
Okay, so now that I've got the DSP on here, I'm gonna attach the scallop rectangle. So I die cut this using the Stitch So Sweetly die set, which I believe is retiring.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's retiring. I was pretty disappointed about that because it's one of my favorites too. So that one will be sad to go, but I wanted to be able to use a few things that were retiring before they're gone. So I used that to die cut this stitched rectangle here. And then on this card, you can see I only attached it to this one side panel. So I guess you could attach it to this side as well, but I just stuck with this side because that way it works more like the way a book fold kind of works. So I just used dimensionals to attach the rectangle. So let's put those on really quickly. So I just used 5. So I just put 1 in each corner here. And then, so I guess if I just line this up, then I can see how far in. So I can go to about there. So let's put 1 right here. 1 right there. And let's put 1 in the middle as well. And that way when it goes on there, it'll have enough to give it dimension all the way up to the middle point there. Those all. So I'll just line this up. So it's right in the middle. All right, so now that I've got that down, then it can open up like that. So then next I used a piece of real red that I cut. I'll just double check the measurement on this for you guys.
2.5 by 4, but oh no, sorry, I thought you were talking about the other one.
So this one I cut to, I guess I have 2 9/16 is the width. And then this way it is just over 3 3/4. So it should be about 3 3/4 this way. And I just did that so that it fits inside this little stitched rectangle design that's on the inside of the Stitch So Sweetly die. And then I also, just for this one, I also distressed the edges of this. So I'll just do that quickly. All right, so now that I've got that done, I also used Tombow glue to attach this onto the black rectangle. So I'll just use that. And then let's line that up right in the middle here. And that way it fits right inside that stitch rectangle design along. I don't know if you guys can see that. It doesn't show up super well on camera, but that way it's centered in the middle there. And then I also used, I'll double check the size on this one too. So I used a piece of white next, and I embossed this with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder, which we are all very sad is also going. So I wanted to use that as well. So this one is 2.5 by 3 5/8. So that's the dimensions of that one. Then I also use the Tombow glue to attach this one. A little bit harder to see since the paper is white.
I agree, guys. He's doing a good job.
Just line that right up in the middle there. Once that's attached, then all I've got left is to attach the greeting here and then each of these drinks, and then also attach the inside layer there. All right, so now that I've got each of the drinks finished here, I just use the mini dimensionals, which I hear somewhere else.
here.
Oh, there we go. So I just use the mini dimensionals to attach the cups onto the white layer. So this, I just used 4 for each of the cups there. Back there. So I just put 1 in each of the top corners there, and then 1 in the middle, and then 1 at the bottom. Now let's peel those backings off. And one thing my mom pointed out as I was making mine is to try and line up the first drink in the middle, and that makes it easier to line up the second 2 on the outsides. That way there's an equal distance between them all, because I was having a bit of trouble with trying to start on the end, and then I was messing up the spacing there. So that made it easier. So that way you can just line up the middle of this cup with the middle of the fold there. So let's move that down a little bit. I'm just realizing as well, my rectangle is a little bit crooked on here, but I can always fix that later. So it's bothering me now, but I'll leave it till later to fix rather than bore you guys with watching me try to fix that on the live here.
He might be his mother's son.
There's no doubt about it.
Janet might agree.
I figured she probably would. So let's peel the backings off that one too. So let's line that up in the middle of this one and that. Right about there. And then I'll grab the last one. Do the same for this.
I think this stamp image from that stamp set is probably my favorite. Just bring this back in again. The cup that he chose to use, these ones here, that's my favorite one out of the set.
This is on. The backing's off there. I'll just attach this last cup. Line that up with the others. So that way there's an equal distance between each of them. And that helps with lining up the greeting as well. So I'll show you guys how to attach that. So I use the mini dimensionals for this greeting as well. And I wasn't sure at first how to attach it, but then my mom had the idea that I could, I wanted to use dimensionals, and because of the spacing in between, she suggested I could do a double-decker dimensional in between those. So that makes it a little bit more fancy, I guess you could say. So I'm just gonna put the dimensionals down in between here first. So I'll line up where I want the greeting to go. So I did it just above the midline of each of the drinks, so about there. So that way I know where I want to put the dimensionals. So I'll put, just gonna peel off the backing first and then attach one to the other. Like that. Then I have the backing peeled off there. So just stick that down.
Oh, thanks, Janet.
Right in between about there.
I feel like we need to do a Brood for You class. You guys can let us know what you think about that. Maybe we need to let Ethan join us and teach at least one of the cards.
Let's stick that right level with the other one. Now that I've got that lined up, I'll just line up the greeting right where I wanted it to go. So there we go. Now it has the greeting has a bit of dimension from the cups, which are also popped, or I guess dimensional. So now that I have that done, and the last thing I did was just to attach this inside layer where I used the masking technique. So I'll just finish up with that, and then I'll pass it back over to my mom to finish up her card. So I'll just grab my layer. Is this yours?
Yeah, that's mine. Yours is right here.
Just left my layer back behind there. So slide that over. So I did a few tries with this, trying to figure out the best way to get it done, but just gotta grab the chamois here. So I just started off by cleaning off the stamp from when I stamped the greeting before, because there's a little bit of ink left there. So I'll just clean that using the chamois. Make sure this is nice and clean.
You might be more thorough than I am, guys.
Probably.
Terry is asking you what color you used for the liquid. She missed that part.
Oh, for the liquid for each of these, I used early espresso to stamp those. So that's what I did for the drinks in the cups.
And then you might want to remind her what you did afterwards.
Just reading the comment. And then yeah, after that, then I used the Versamark and then the clear embossing powder and then I guess like the heat gun to do the technique that makes it look more, I guess, glossy, kind of shiny there. Because otherwise it doesn't look as bright. It just looks a little bit more dull. So that's what gives it more of, I guess, a realistic look.
I like Michelle's comment. No Alana bow in the top corner. Great lingo and technique, Ethan.
So now for this inside layer here, I just used a 4x5¼ piece of white. So in order to stamp just the or several and not get the rest of this stamp, I just used the basic black marker, and I used I guess this is do you call it the felt tip?
The brush tip.
The brush tip end. So I just used that to brush along the bottom greeting there, the bottom part of the greeting. That way it only inks up that bottom part and doesn't get the rest of the greeting. Just color along there. Oop, slipped a little bit. All right, so now that I've got that colored in, I'm just gonna line this up. And it helps having the bigger part of the stamp there, because then that makes it easier to line up, even though that part doesn't have any ink. So just line that up right in the middle. See about right there. I'll just stamp down. It stuck a little bit there, but won't worry about that. So that way it just has the or several and doesn't show the rest of the stamp. So then I just used the Tombow glue as well to attach that. So this attach that to the inside of the card, and then it'll be all finished up.
I wish we could buy this particular pattern in this color, this plaid that he used there. I wish we could buy that in full sheets. I love the real red and I love that pattern.
Now that I've got the glue on there, and I made sure to stamp this before putting it on the inside, because my mom reminded me of that, because there's been too many times I stick it to the inside and then screw up, and then I have to tear it off the card. And it
Not just you, I do it too. I learned that lesson from doing it myself. I put the layer in, or I stamp straight on the base and then I mess it up.
So I've got that attached, and that is the finished product here. So this close this up. So yeah, that was the technique I did. So I used the, what do you call it? What is it? What do you call this kind of fold?
Gatefold.
Yeah, so I used the gatefold technique for this card. So this is the finished product. So now I've got two of these. So I have to figure out what to do with them now.
We might have to do a draw. So if that sounds good to you guys, I'll come in a minute and finish my card. But if you would like to share our live video, we will do a draw in a week's time, and we will send the winner one of each of our cards. So the winner will get one of these, and one of mine. Sound okay to you if we give away one of your cards?
I'm good with
I'm
that.
just speaking for his card with that. I'm
I'm
just
good with
speaking
that.
for his card without asking him first. But
I'd love to
oh, and
share.
Ramona, you collect Coke stuff, don't you? So we'll give you guys until next Thursday to share the video. And next Thursday at 5, we will tally up all the names of people who have shared. What you will have to do is, so Janet, when the video is over, there will be a little share button under the video on my page. So if you hit share, or actually it shows up at the bottom of the screen here as well, then what you'll do is comment to say that you shared. The only way I'll know you shared is if you comment to tell me that you did, because sometimes, just depending on people's settings, even if they've shared, it doesn't show me that they did. So you'll just have to make sure that you comment and come back to say shared, and then we'll know to count you in, and we'll put everybody's name in the draw, and you will receive one of Ethan's card and one of my cards in the mail.
I think my card already spoke for me that that one of you guys will get a card because I owe you guys one. I owe them a card.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
my card speaks for.
There we go. So you will get one of his fabulous cards. And I think he did a really good job. And I'm super proud that he wanted to come on and go live. This was totally Ethan's doing. He wanted to come live yesterday. We just knew we didn't quite have time from when he suggested it until our live time for him to design a card. But this was all him. And with the snowstorm, he wasn't at orientation for work today, but they are having them come in actually tomorrow. So this worked out really well. So I will now finish my project. Ethan and I'll jump back in there. We're going to play musical chairs again. And at the end, when I'm done assembling this, I will do the split screen again so that you will get one more view of both of the projects at the same time. All right, so the assembly of mine is slightly different because it has the interlocking mechanism. Thanks, Lena. Tammy said you're funny, Ethan.
Thank you.
That's hilarious, Tammy. Ramona will win again. She's been on a winning streak, hasn't she? All right. So I went ahead and stamped my greeting while Ethan was assembling his card for you guys. So I've got that ready to go. I don't need it just yet. I've got my feature layer all ready to go. I had pre-embossed 2 of the layers of Old Olive with that Fern folder. And I have my card base that I prepped earlier on in the video. So I've got that ready. And then I also have a card insert, just like Ethan had, that will go on the inside. So I just have to open that up. So it's just a basic white layer. That's all I've got there. So I have my card base, the white layer for the inside. I'll put that aside for right now. I have my 2 Old Olive Fern embossed layers. They are 2.5 by 4, the 2 layers. And then I have my frame that I cut that I showed you guys earlier with the, I am forgetting the name of these already. The Fabulous Frames dies that are coming up in the new catalog. And then I have the Fabulous Frames die insert that I cut out of the white that I used to stamp the panda on. So what I need to do first is attach the 2 Old Olive layers to the card front. So I will get those done. I should have thought to tape these in advance so that you guys didn't have to watch me do this. I could have done this while Ethan was assembling for you guys just to save some time. Absolutely, I agree with the working hard to earn the challenge entries. Ramona is a card making machine. We were just teasing because for any of you who are in our Cards for Ukraine fundraiser page, you would have seen it, but for those of you who aren't, Ramona made so many cards to send to the store that we have here locally. So part of our fundraiser was that people could create extra cards, and then we donated them to the store, and he can sell them there in the shop to raise additional funds for Ukraine. And Ramona, you must have made at least 40 cards, I feel like, maybe even more. So I have just adhered the Old Olive Fern layer to the front on one side, and I will do the other one as well. yeah, she came up with a lot of really great cards, and I know that they have loved them at the store too. We intended to go there yesterday and take them some more, but then with the storm, that didn't happen. So now we will have to check to see if they're open Saturday, so we can take those to them. All right. Thank you guys all so much for being here with us and for watching Ethan make his card. So now this layer here, I am just attaching centered on the other panel. So now we have both panels on each of these front gatefold flaps. And then here's where it gets a little bit particular in how I attach the frame. So I chose to use the shaker frame or the foam adhesive strips. We use these for shaker frames, but I chose to use these to attach this frame because all it is this rectangle frame, and I wanted to make sure that I had a good solid application of adhesive, and I wanted it to be raised so that it was easier to tuck this interlocking mechanism or interlocking layer into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just lining this up. I want to center this black frame on the front, and then I'm going to flip it upside down. So by flipping it upside down, I am just going to place my scissors here just to keep everything flat while I place the adhesive. Actually, I need to put something else there because I need to use my scissors to cut the glue or to cut my strips here. So I want to have a strip that is the length, or the full length of this side here. I'll let you maybe watch the comments, Ethan. Yes, if you have a big table to spread out when you're making multiples, Terry, that is a huge help. This one's a little bit too long yet, so I just need to trim that off a little bit. So I am placing this foam adhesive strip the whole length here. We will have to come back to you guys as well with the winners of the mystery challenges, and Ethan and Lennon are going to come up with a layout for the mystery challenge. It won't give you guys a ton of notice because we are going to do that after the live. So it will be later tonight that I will post the measurements. Hopefully with tomorrow being a holiday, you guys will have a little bit more time than otherwise to gather your supplies. So hopefully it'll give you guys some time to play along, but you'll have a little bit of extra, you'll have a week to create your project. So hopefully that won't put the pressure on you guys too much to play along tomorrow. You can either do it tomorrow or take the week and then post it afterwards. So I've got my kind of U shape of foam adhesive strips. So now the idea with this is I wanted to make sure that these ends, the adhesive does not go past this center point here. Otherwise it'll tape my card shut. So now I can pull these backings off. I hope we still have enough light and it's not too dark for you guys. And I want to center this top to bottom and side to side. So I am just holding down this side. This side has no adhesive. And then that makes it a little bit easier to place this side down. What time is the live tomorrow? We will do, sorry, that's a good question, Janet. We forgot to come back. We only announced yesterday and today. We'll do the same time tomorrow, if that's good for everybody. And actually probably even 6 o'clock instead of 6:30. I'll give you guys a minute to comment, actually. Comment and let me know whether you prefer 6 or 6:30, which will, or even a little bit earlier. I'll let you guys take charge there and make some comments and let me know what time you guys prefer, whether you want to do 6, 6:30, or even a bit earlier in the day. I think most people will be off tomorrow. Might work to go a little bit earlier. So we've got this attached now, centered side to side and top to bottom. It is not attached on this side, just on this side. So now what I want to do is get the adhesive onto this layer here so that it will tuck in the middle. But now with this one here, I only want the adhesive on the right side. I don't want to put any on this side, or again, it will take the card shut. So we're just going to flip that upside down for a second. And actually what I did was I placed it inside the frame here as opposed to on the panda. So what I'm going to do is just snip some more strips off of here. And I just placed them not right up to the edge of the black, but close to, so that it would nicely hold down that panda layer. Okay, so the frame is attached on this side. The panda layer is going to be attached in front of the old olive fern layer on only this side. By keeping the frame here while I put the adhesive, that way I was sure that the placement of it wouldn't interfere with the two different layers. 6 or earlier. Does Janet, do you have any time tomorrow that works if it was earlier? Okay, so now I have peeled the backings off those foam adhesive strips, and now I'm going to just line this up with the other side. I don't want it to, I want it to make sure it's lined up. I don't want it to tuck behind the frame at all. There we go. So now that is attached inside the frame, and then you can see here where that will pop open, and then you can interlock those layers. Okay, so we've got that. And I didn't want the greeting to interfere with how these layers would meet with each other. I haven't played around with it. This is the first time I've ever done this. It was just an idea that came to mind while we were working with Ethan's gatefold. So I purposely kept the greeting nice and small and just on the white layer. So again, for those of you who might have missed the beginning part, I stamped the greeting with Versamark on the black cardstock, and then I coated it with white embossing powder and heat set it. And I don't know if you're still here, Michelle, but you're going to get one of the Alana bows. So I'm just snipping a little diagonal edge on either end. And just like Ethan did, I added a little bit of distressing. So I'm just going to take my scissors and distress that a little bit. Too funny, Michelle's still here. I've got some prizes for you too, Michelle. I've got your Stamparatus bag here. And oh, I feel like you won something else. I have to remind myself of what it was. All right, and then for my bow, I think I set down, I had the tear and tape, I used it, I hid it. I went and stacked other adhesive on top of it. So I'm going to just take a little piece of tape and I'm going to place that just behind the left edge of the greeting, or the left end here. And I've got my linen thread. It's still on my roll here. Okay, so those of you who are here and may get to play along, do you prefer later in the afternoon, like maybe 4 instead of 6? Okay, so I've got a little end trailing off there, and then I'll just make my faux bow again. I often end up doing these with my team meetings too, so we have a running joke about me and my faux bows. All right, so I made a loop off one end, and then you just make a loop up the other end, kind of like a crazy 8. And Ethan's going to try to watch the comments for me. All right, so now I'm done with the linen thread, and I just want to place another piece of tape over top of, I cannot do that, I can't rip it off with that stuck to my thumb. Place another piece of tape over top of here, just to tape that down. I did not tape it down on a previous label that I had made, and it actually unraveled behind it. So there you go. It looks like a bow, but I just made a little crazy 8 with the linen thread, and then I can dimensional this down into this place here. Oh, Okay, so I have my dimensionals and I just snipped a couple of the frame pieces here that I put on the back of the greeting, and then I dimensional that down in place. Alrighty. Now, the other reason I wanted to keep this greeting really tiny, for one, I didn't want it to interfere with the interlocking mechanism at all, but also I didn't want it to interfere with that really cute panda. I just thought it was so adorable and I didn't want to cover it up too much. So that was the dual purpose of a really small greeting there. And I just love that little believe in yourself. It's a little bit crooked. I might have to move that just a tad. Nope, it's going to stay. Otherwise, I'll wreck my card. So I will double check if this stamp set is retiring, the one that I used for the greetings, the Through It Together. I feel like it is. I'll try to update the description of the video with the supplies that we used and tell you whether they're retiring or not. But again, this is the Through It Together. It kind of reminds me of Teeny Tiny Wishes that we used to have, but it's got a lot of really good versatile greetings that are nice and small that you can fit into most projects. All right, so I am going to add back in Ethan's video here so that you guys can see both of us. I'll bring my card closer one more time, and then I'll also let him bring his project closer as well. Actually, here, why don't you bring yours in here with me, Ethan? We'll do that. We will bring him right in here with me. So we've got the panda with the interlocking gatefold. Oh, I forgot to put the insert in, but it is just a white 4x5¼ insert that just goes right inside this center panel here. I can add that later. So whoever wins one of these will have that center panel in their card. But that is how the interlocking gatefold works with this really cute little panda image. And then we'll let Ethan bring in his gatefold with the fancy glossy Coke cup technique. So if you aim it towards, there we go. Here, I'll let you do it. But if you aim it towards we're losing our daylight in here. So got to angle it towards where the window is.
Yeah. And that one opens up and you've got the rest of the greeting on the inside with the 4x5¼ white piece.
I feel like it would be fun to add a little gift card pocket on the inside. You could do like a gift card to a restaurant or something like that. But yeah, I think you did a really good job. We really appreciate you guys. The name of the stamp set for my sentiment is Through It Together. This one's in the annual catalog, I believe. So I will actually update this video with a description that will list the supplies we used. And if the item is retiring, I will put that in brackets beside the item. So I'll say Through It Together. If it's retiring, I will tell you in brackets that it's retiring. And then if you guys are up for it, if you would like to share, please do make sure that you comment and say that you shared. And then that way next Thursday, we will do a draw and whoever wins it will get one of each of these cards in the mail from Ethan and I. I really appreciate that he wanted to be here with us tonight too. Thank you, Ethan, for joining us with your creativity. This again was him. He did that. He needed a little bit of help or asked for a little bit of help with how to do the assembly, but that's his design. So I think he did a fabulous job. And we will be back tomorrow. I will post the time. I'll probably go a little bit earlier. And then that way we won't be fighting against daylight. And once these two help pick the layout that we're going to do for tomorrow, I will get a set of measurements posted tonight for you guys to give you a little bit of time to play along with us. We were actually tempted to switch it out and make this be our mystery stamping, but you guys have seen it today already. So I think we need to do something a little different instead, but they will pick something. And I think Wendy might not be here anymore, but I feel like we're going to have to incorporate Lennon somehow with the commentary. He's good for the comic relief. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We will come back tomorrow. This was a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys all being here. And thanks for your support of Ethan as well.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.